I still remember the way the sunlight cut through the lecture hall that morning, sharp and unforgiving, like the stares of the men sitting in the front row. I'd spent 3 sleepless nights perfecting my algorithm, tweaking variables until my vision blurred. It was supposed to be my big moment, the Stanford Innovation Showcase, the kind of event where hungry investors throw money at the next big thing. And there I was, Helena Voss, scholarship kid, daughter of a nurse and a ghost, standing in front of a panel that included Richard fucking Thorne, Lucas's father, venture capital royalty, the man who once told Forbes he only bets on pedigreed talent. I could see him already typing on his phone before I even started, his polished loafers tapping impatiently. But I launched into my demo anyway, my voice steady, my hands steady, everything about me steady, even though my stomach was a riot of nerves. The algorithm was beautiful. It didn't just analyse market trends, it predicted them, sniffing out patterns even the big firms missed. I trained it on scraps of public data garbage most analysts ignored, and it worked. Then Thorne interrupted me. "Cute project," he said, not even looking up from his screen. "But we fund real innovators here. Come back when you've got something scalable." The room froze. Scalable? It was scalable. That was the whole point. But his tone made it clear. This wasn't about the tech. This was about me. No last name that opened doors. No uncle in the industry. Just a girl who coded in the library after her shifts at the dining hall. I forced a smile, the kind that doesn't reach your eyes, and kept going. The other panellists at least pretended to listen, nodding along like they gave a damn, but I could see their eyes glazing over. One of them, some silver-haired guy who smelled like expensive cigars, yawned. And then my phone buzzed. Again. And again. I ignored it through the quander, through the limp applause, through Thorne's smirk as he turned to the next presenter, some guy pitching a blockchain pet tracker. But when I stepped into the hallway, I checked my messages. 12 missed calls, all from Mum. The voicemail was worse. "Helena, baby, it's back." Her voice was thin, stretched too tight over those 3 words. I didn't need details. I knew. The cancer had crawled out of remission like a thief in the night, and just like that, my future, the one I'd bled for, the one I thought I was securing in that lecture hall, evaporated. I didn't cry. Not then. I just stood there, staring at my reflection in the dark screen of my laptop, watching the last traces of the girl who believed in meritocracy drain away. Behind me, the showcase rolled on without me. Laughter spilled out of the lecture hall. Someone clinked glasses, and I walked out. Not just out of the building, but out of the life I'd spent years clawing toward. Because in the end, it didn't matter how smart I was. The world had already decided I was disposable. But oh, they'd regret that. The fluorescent lights in my dorm hallway hummed like dying insects as I shoved textbooks into my suitcase. Every thud of a book hitting fabric sounded like a door slamming shut. On my future, on Stanford, on the illusion that hard work alone could ever be enough. Priya leaned against my doorframe, her designer sweater draped just so to show off the Cartier bracelet her daddy bought when she got into tech. She didn't knock. People like Priya never knock. "Wow," she said, dragging the word out like it was a joke only she understood. "Guess you really are dropping out." I didn't look up. My fingers tightened around my calc textbook, the one with the cracked spine from all those nights I'd studied instead of sleeping. Then the coffee came. A deliberate tilt of her wrist, a slow pour of lukewarm Americano right over my open notebook. The liquid spread fast, swallowing equations, smearing ink. "Oops." Priya's smile was all teeth. "Guess you won't need these anymore." Behind her, Derek's phone camera light blinked red. He'd been filming since I started packing. For his stupid vlog, his stupid followers who ate up his Silicon Valley insider shtick. "Say something for the viewers, Helena," he drawled. "How's it feel to be Stanford's latest dropout statistic?" The air smelled like burnt coffee and Derek's cheap cologne. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw that ruined notebook in their smug faces. Instead, I zipped my suitcase shut with a sound like a guillotine dropping. Lucas chose that moment to saunter in, all tailored nonchalance. He took one look at my half-empty room and sighed like I was inconveniencing him. Look, if you need a reference for like a community college or something, I don't... My voice surprised me, cold, certain. A beat of silence. Then Priya snorted. God, you're pathetic. Throwing away Stanford to play nursemaid? Derek zoomed in on my face, waiting for tears. Lucas checked his Rolex. I picked up my last box, my Stanford ID card glaring up at me from the desk. That plastic rectangle had been my golden ticket once. Now? Just another thing to leave behind. I snapped it in half. The crack echoed louder than I expected. Priya flinched. Derek's camera wavered. For one glorious second I saw it, the flicker of doubt in their eyes. The first tiny fracture in their perfect, privileged world. Then the moment passed. Lucas rolled his eyes. Drama queen. I walked out without looking back. The hallway stretched endless, my footsteps too loud in the sudden quiet. Behind me, Derek's voice carried, "Clip's gonna go viral. Girl ruins life for dead mom." Laughter followed me out into the rain. But let them laugh. Every empire starts with someone walking away. The hospital waiting room smelled like antiseptic and despair. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flickering like a failing heartbeat. I sat clutching my laptop bag, my knees pressed together to keep them from shaking, while somewhere behind swinging doors, machines kept my mother alive. A social worker slid a clipboard across the table toward me. The numbers on the page might as well have been hieroglyphics. $200,000. Just for the first round of treatment. Just to buy time. "Payment plan options are on the back," she said, voice clipped. Like she'd said this 1,000 times before. Like it never got easier for anyone. I stared at the paperwork until the numbers blurred. My scholarship refund wouldn't cover a tenth of this. The dorm room I'd just walked out of might as well have been on another planet. Across the room, a TV played muted financial news. The ticker tape at the bottom screamed about some tech IPO skyrocketing. Priya's father's face flashed across the screen, grinning. I wondered if Lucas was celebrating with champagne right now, if Derek was editing his stupid video. My fingers found the power button on my laptop. The screen glowed to life, illuminating the dark waiting room. Code from my abandoned project still filled the screen. Unfinished, imperfect, mine. A nurse walked by, shoes squeaking on linoleum. "Visiting hours are over," she said, not unkindly. I nodded, but didn't move. Couldn't move. The hospital chairs were the kind designed to keep people from sleeping in them, all hard plastic and cruel angles. I shifted and something dug into my thigh. Priya's coffee-stained notebook, warped pages crumbling at the edges. Outside, an ambulance wailed. Somewhere, someone was having the worst night of their life. I wondered if they felt it too. This vertigo of freefall, the ground disappearing beneath you, while the world kept spinning like nothing had changed. My laptop fan whirred softly. I opened a new file. The first line of code appeared on the screen. Then another. The algorithm wasn't for class anymore, wasn't for grades or approval or venture capital dreams. It was for her. The clock ticked past 3 a.m. The waiting room emptied. The night stretched on, endless and suffocating, but the code kept coming, line after line after line. Somewhere between the caffeine shakes and the exhaustion, I realized this was how wars were fought now. Not with guns or fists, but with lines of logic in the dark. Not in daylight where everyone could see, but in hospital waiting rooms where no one was looking. The social worker had left a pen on the table. I picked it up, turned the bill over, and started doing math in the margins. Numbers didn't lie. Numbers didn't care who your parents were, and neither would I. Dawn bled through the curtains of my mother's studio apartment as I laced up my sneakers, the same pair I'd worn to lecture halls, now stained with delivery grease and hospital disinfectant. The app on my phone chirped. New order, Tech Cafe, 8:15 a.m. I knew the address before it loaded. That glass and steel monstrosity where Lucas's incubator housed its golden children. The bike I'd bought for $80 on Craigslist rattled beneath me as I cut through back alleys, dodging dumpsters and sleeping security guards. My backpack held 3 things: insulated delivery bags, my battered laptop, and a fury so precise it could cut diamond. Tech Cafe's lobby gleamed with stupid money. A waterfall wall, espresso machines that cost more than my mother's monthly rent, a receptionist who looked through me like I was glass. "Delivery for Thorn Ventures," I said, holding up the bag of overpriced avocado toast. The receptionist waved me toward the elevators without looking up. The doors opened to a chorus of laughter. There they were, Lucas holding court in a beanbag chair, Derek filming some asinine prank, Priya scrolling through her designer-clad followers. And there, projected on the wall behind them, my algorithm, or what was left of it after they'd butchered the code. "Just needs better branding," Lucas was saying, gesturing at the screen. "We'll call it Thornetics or some shit." The bag of food nearly slipped from my fingers. Derek spotted me first. "Oh shit, it's DoorDash girl." His camera swung toward me. "Yo, Helena, you here to take our lunch orders or our job applications?" Priya didn't even glance up from her phone. "Make sure she washes her hands first." I set the food down carefully. Too carefully. My pulse roared in my ears, but my voice came out ice calm. "You're using the wrong training dataset." Silence. Lucas' eyebrow twitched. "The what?" "Page 6 of your slides." I pointed at their butchered version of my work. "You're feeding it corporate SEC filings when it needs scrapped Reddit data. No wonder your accuracy rate's garbage." The room went still. Priya's manicured fingers froze mid-swipe. Then Derek burst out laughing. "Jesus, she's still trying to play genius. Somebody get this girl a mop." I walked out before they could see my hand shake. The elevator doors closed on Lucas's smirk, on Priya's eye roll, on my stolen work glowing behind them. That night, in the library basement's humming server room, where the night janitor forgot to lock the door, I tore their shitty code apart line by line. My fingers flew across the keyboard, rewriting, refining, weaponizing. The campus Wi-Fi was fast. The incubator's firewall was laughable. And by 3:17 a.m., Thornetics' entire test suite started returning one phrase whenever they ran it. "Ask Helena. Let them laugh now." Midnight found me curled in the custodial closet of the engineering building, the glow of my laptop screen reflecting off industrial bleach bottles. I'd been hiding there for 3 hours since campus security last made a rounds, surviving on vending machine crackers, and the burning, need to prove them all wrong. The closet smelled of lemon cleaner and mildew, a far cry from the bergamot-scented incubators where Lucas's team held court. The door creaked open without warning. I nearly snapped my laptop shut before recognizing the worn work boots. Miguel, the night janitor who'd been quietly ignoring my presence for weeks. Tonight, he carried a cardboard box under one arm and a look I couldn't decipher. "You're gonna fry your retinas," he grunted, nodding at my screen. Before I could respond, he dropped the box beside me. Inside, a desk lamp, a power strip, and a thermos that released the rich aroma of real coffee. Not the burnt swill from the student lounge. "I didn't ask. You didn't have to." He leaned against the mop bucket, arms crossed. "Saw what you did to those rich kids' servers last night?" My blood turned to ice. Miguel just sipped his coffee. "Relax. Campus? IT thinks it was a prank from Caltech." A beat. "You any good with 3D modelling?" That's how I learned about Sophia. His 16-year-old daughter, born without a left hand, stuck on a 9-month waiting list for a prosthetic she'd outgrow in a year. The drawings scattered across his kitchen table showed her latest design attempt sketched in the margins of her biology notebook. "Insurance won't cover the good ones," Miguel said, running a calloused finger along the crude drawing. "Says she doesn't need the kind with finger articulation." The anger tasted familiar. I spent that night taking apart the $30 3D printer Miguel had salvaged from a lab dumpster. By dawn, we'd printed our first test piece, a palm plate with the word Helena embedded in the lattice like a secret. "You know they'll fire you if they catch you helping me," I said as we watched the printer hum. Miguel just smiled. "You know Elena Vasquez?" The name hit like a live wire. The disgraced venture capitalist who'd sued Thorn Ventures for stealing her fund's IP. The woman they called the Bruja of Sand Hill Road. "Turns out," Miguel said, wiping grease from the printer gears, "even billionaires need their toilets cleaned." The printer whirred layer by layer, building something the system said Sophia didn't deserve. Outside the apartment window, the first tech bros of the day hurried toward their shiny offices, oblivious to the revolution being manufactured in a janitor's kitchen. I saved my new project file under a different name this time. Not Thornetics, not Nix. Sophia's hand. The game had just changed. Rain lashed against the warehouse windows as Elena Vasquez circled my prototype like a hawk. The abandoned textile mill she'd converted into her war room smelled of solder and ambition, its concrete floors littered with half-disassembled server racks. 10 years ago, her face had graced the cover of Wired. Now, the tech blogs called her the Ghost of Sand Hill Road. "You built this on a janitor's salvaged hardware?" Her stiletto tapped against a frayed power cable. "Impressive. Stupid, but impressive." I kept my hands flat on the folding table, the prototype between us, a Frankenstein's monster of Miguel's scavenged parts and my code, hummed softly, its cooling fans whirring like anxious insects. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. Eleanor's manicured finger hovered over the enter key. "Show me." I entered the command that made the room go still. The screens flared to life, streams of data painting the walls in liquid light. My algorithm chewed through global markets with terrifying hunger, digesting news feeds, weather patterns, shipping manifests, things Wall Street's billion-dollar models ignored. It spat out its prediction in blood-red text. Market correction. 27 to 34% decline. Estimated onset. 17 days. Elena's sharp inhale was the only sound. Then she laughed, a rich, dangerous sound that didn't match the storm outside. "You realize this could collapse 3 hedge funds I hate." Miguel's daughter Sophia sat cross-legged in the corner, testing her new prosthetics grip on a soda can. The 3D printed fingers closed with satisfying precision. "Told you, she was legit," she said to her father. Elena spun toward me. "What do you need?" "More than you're willing to give. Try me." I met her gaze. "The Thorn Ventures back door. The one they used to steal your patents." The warehouse went preternaturally quiet. Even the servers seemed to hold their breath. Eleanor's smile could have cut glass. She walked to a rusted safe, twisted the dial, and pulled out a thumb drive hanging from a silver chain. "You'll need this too." She dropped it beside my keyboard. My little black book, every dirty secret, every offshore account, every mistress and bribed official in Silicon Valley. The drive gleamed under the fluorescence. Power condensed into plastic. Sophia's prosthetic hand crushed the soda can with a metallic scream. I named it Nyx that night, after the primordial Greek goddess of night, the mother of chaos, the one even Zeus feared. As we loaded the servers into Eleanor's unmarked van, Miguel pressed a key into my palm. "Warehouse loft upstairs," he said. "Rent's paid 6 months in advance." The rain had stopped. Across the bay, the lights of Silicon Valley glittered like fool's gold. Somewhere in those shining towers, Lucas was pitching investors. Priya was preening for cameras. Derek was stealing someone else's work. They didn't know it yet, but their night was coming. And I would be the darkness. The charity auction paddle felt heavier than it should have in my hand. Ivory inlaid with platinum, the kind of disposable opulence that made Priya's family feel important. 5 years ago, I'd scrubbed vomit from dorm toilets to pay for textbooks. Tonight, the security detail flanking the ballroom doors nodded as I passed, their earpieces crackling with my name. Miss Voss. The auction coordinator's smile didn't reach her eyes. The Vasquez bidder. How unexpected. Across the room, Priya's father stiffened mid-conversation. His gaze locked onto me with the slow horror of a man recognizing a ghost. I sipped my champagne. The good stuff, not the swill they served the junior donors, and let the whispers do their work. That's Nyx's founder. They say she blackmailed the SEC into approving her IPO. I heard she sleeps with a gun under her pillow. The auctioneer cleared his throat. Next item. A first edition of The Art of War annotated by Sun Tzu's descendants. Opening bid at 20,000. Priya's paddle shot up before he finished speaking. Her smirk said everything. This was her family's event, their territory, their world where people like me didn't belong. 50, I said. The room inhaled as one. Priya's manicure dug into her paddle. 60? Her voice cracked. I waited until the auctioneer raised his gavel. 100. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The book wasn't worth half that. But the real prize wasn't leather and ink. It was the moment Priya's father placed a restraining hand on her wrist, the way her flush crept past her contouring. Sold to Miss Voss. I took the stage with measured steps, the spotlight warmer than I remembered. Donate this to the Oakland Women's Shelter, I said, handing it directly to the charity CEO, instead of Priya's mortified mother. In memory of Rosa Voss. The silence that followed had weight. My mother's name, unremarkable in life, weaponized in death, hung over the ballroom like a blade. Priya found me at the valet station later. That was a cheap stunt, she hissed, her breath sour with gin. I adjusted the strap of my gown, black, obviously, and worth more than her first car. You're right. The engine of my town car purred to life. I should have bid higher. As the door closed, I caught the valet's smirk. The kid had NYUCS stickers on his water bottle. Knew the look. Another scholarship rat fighting his way up the ladder. Keep the change, I said, pressing a folded 100 into his palm. Beneath it, my card. Nyx is hiring. The car pulled away from the curb, leaving Priya seething in a cloud of exhaust. Behind us, the gala's lights reflected in the Hudson, broken and shimmering, like the dreams I'd drowned to get here. Somewhere in the city, Miguel and Sophia were watching the auction live stream on a refurbished laptop. Somewhere in a lab, Eleanor was reverse engineering Thorn Ventures' latest innovation. And somewhere in a penthouse, Lucas was probably screaming into a pillow. But right now, the night smelled like victory and gasoline. Lucas Thorne arrived at my office, smelling like desperation and his father's cologne. The same Rolex glinted on his wrist, but the polish had worn thin. Scratches marred the gold, the glass face smudged with fingerprints. He tried to hide it when he thought I wasn't looking, adjusting his sleeve like it could erase the last 5 years of bad decisions. I let him stand there while I finished typing, the mechanical keyboard clacking like gunfire in the silence. Nyx's trading floor hummed below us through the glass floor. A hive of analysts tracking the numbers that would decide his fate. You wanted a meeting, I said finally. Talk. His throat bobbed. We need liquidity. A laugh escaped me, sharp, unkind. You need a miracle. The Thorn Ventures portfolio had bled out publicly, spectacularly. Bad bets on hydrogen freight, a failed AI chatbot that kept recommending divorce lawyers, And of course, the infamous Thornetics rebrand that had investors fleeing like rats from a sinking ship. I pushed a folder across the desk. Inside, every financial sin his family had committed in the past decade glowed in forensic detail. Over-leveraged assets, shell companies, the mistress in Singapore who'd been siphoning funds. Lucas's fingers trembled as he flipped through it. Where did you... Eleanor says hi. The name hit him like a bullet. His father's greatest rival, the woman they'd bankrupted with stolen patents, the one who disappeared until now. I stood and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city sprawled beneath us, glittering and indifferent. I'll wire the capital by noon. His breath rushed out in a disbelieving laugh. You're serious? With conditions? I nodded to my COO, who slid a second folder across the desk. Lucas's smile died as he read the terms. Majority stake. Voting control. His father's private jet seized as collateral. You are joking! I turned, letting him see the truth in my face. The chair screeched as he stood. We built that company from nothing. No. My voice stayed soft. Your father stole it from people who actually built things. Now sign or watch the SEC tear through your family like confetti. Outside, storm clouds gathered over the bay. The first fat raindrops hit the glass as Lucas picked up the pen. He didn't read Clause 17. Nobody ever did. The document scanner whirred, capturing his signature in perfect, damning detail. My CO whisked it away to be notarized, leaving us alone with the ticking of the antique clock Elena had gifted me, a replica of the one Thorne Sr. had taken in the divorce. Lucas straightened his tie, already composing the spin for his investors. This'll be good for both of us. I smiled and pressed the intercom. Maria, bring in Mr. Thorne's lunch. The door opened. The scent of cheap, instant ramen, chicken flavour, the kind I'd lived on for 2 years, filled the room. Lucas stared at the styrofoam cup like it was a live grenade. Bon appetit, I said, and left him there with his memories. Derek's company collapse played out across social media like a car crash in slow motion. I watched it from Nix's war room, surrounded by blinking servers that had once lived in a janitor's closet. The live stream showed him pacing behind his glass desk, tie askew, phone pressed to his ear as his employees packed their belongings in the background. Market Watch just dropped the story, my COO murmured, handing me a tablet. The headline blazed, D-Tech implodes after lead developer exposes stolen code. I swiped to the video beneath it, a shaky cell phone recording of Derek's former lead engineer, a woman with sharp cheekbones and sharper eyes, standing on a desk in the bullpen. Ask me why I quit, she announced to the gathered staff. Then she plugged a thumb drive into the presentation screen. The room erupted as lines of Derek's proprietary algorithm appeared side by side with my old Stanford coursework. Comments, variable names, even the same damn typos. I muted the stream. The silence felt heavier than applause. Her name's Lena Park, my co said, MIT grad. Derek fired her last month after she questioned the IP. I remembered her. The quiet engineer at Tech Caf who'd watched Derek mock me with barely concealed disgust. The one who'd slipped me her card under the table when security dragged me out. On screen, Derek was screaming at someone off camera, his face mottled red. The ticker at the bottom of the screen reported his stock price plummeting 68% in pre-market trading. I picked up the phone. Lena answered on the first ring. Took you long enough. The corner of my mouth lifted. How's unemployment treating you? Better than working for a plagiarizing man-child. A pause. He stole from you too, didn't he? I leaned back, watching Derek's empire burn in real time. Pack your bags. You're heading up our Singapore office. A beat. Then a laugh, dark and satisfied. What about Derek? Oh, I said, pulling up the contract Lucas had signed. I have a position in mind for him. The press release went out at noon. Nix acquires D-Tech assets, appoints Lena Park as managing director. Buried in paragraph 7. Former CEO Derek Walsh to report to Miss Park, effective immediately. His meltdown went viral within minutes. The video showed him storming into Nix's lobby, demanding to see me, only to be escorted to Lena's office by security. Her smile, as she gestured to the intern's desk outside her door, could have powered small countries. "Your first task," she said, tossing him a stack of papers, "is verifying these code commits. Alphabetical order." Derek's scream echoed through the glass walls. Someone started a betting pool on how long he'd last. I turned away from the monitors. Outside, the sun glinted off the bay, fracturing into 1,000 points of light. Somewhere in the city, Priya was frantically scrubbing her social media. Lucas was probably burning documents. But this was just the beginning. The dominoes only fell faster after the first. The email hit my inbox at 3:47 a.m., its subject line screaming in all caps, "NIX backdoor proof." I knew, before opening it, the past had finally caught up. Rain streaked the penthouse windows as I scanned the attached documents. Internal server logs, code snippets with my fingerprints all over them, and, worst of all, timestamps proving Nix's algorithm had been quietly strangling Thorn Ventures investments for months. My phone buzzed. Elena's burner number. They're calling it the biggest corporate espionage case since Enron. I could already see the headlines, the perp walks, the gleeful obituaries of my career. Dawn crept across the city as I traced the leak's origin. The files had first appeared on Tech Truth, a gossip rag Derek used to leak about his hookups. But the metadata told a different story. The documents had been doctored on a machine registered to Priya's father's law firm. Classic. Let the whistleblower take the fall while the sharks circled. Miguel arrived at sunrise with a duffel bag of gear. "Sophia's decrypting their internal emails," he said, plugging a modified router into my system. "They're planning a press conference at noon." The coffee in my hand had gone cold. Outside, news vans clustered around Nix's headquarters like vultures. Then the notification hit, a direct message from an anonymous account. "You should have stayed a nobody." Attached was a photo of my old dorm room door, the word "dropout" still faintly visible beneath fresh paint. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. 5 years ago, I'd have panicked. 3 years ago, I'd have retaliated. Now I smiled, because they'd made one fatal mistake. They assumed their backdoor was the only one. I pulled up the hidden terminal and typed the command Elena had taught me, initiate Trojan_horse.exe. Across town, in Thorn Ventures servers, in Priya's father's secure cloud, in every system that had ever touched those falsified documents, sleeping code awoke. The press conference would still happen. The accusations would still fly. But when the world hit refresh at 9:01 a.m., they wouldn't find proof of my crimes. They'd find theirs. The auditorium lights burned hotter than I remembered. 1,000 phones pointed my way, their screens glowing like predator eyes in the dark. The leaked documents had trended globally for 72 hours, long enough for Congress to announce hearings, for Nix's stock to plummet, for my face to become synonymous with corporate villainy. I adjusted the mic, letting the silence stretch. "You've all seen the headlines." My voice echoed through the sound system. Nix rigged markets, stole data, became everything I claimed to hate. A journalist in the front row smirked, already drafting her takedown piece. Then I clicked the remote. The screen behind me lit up with security footage. Priya's father slipping an envelope to a Senate aide. Lucas wiring funds to an offshore shell company. Derek's infamous borrowed code flashing side by side with my original files. But here's what the leaks didn't show. Another click. The screen split. On the left, Thorn Ventures' backdoor allegations. On the right, lines of my code highlighting in real time, exposing the truth, Their so-called evidence had been spliced from debug logs. Fabrications. The journalist's pen froze mid-scribble. Nix didn't sabotage Thorn Ventures. I paced the stage, heels clicking like a countdown. Their own corruption did, just like D-Tech collapsed because of stolen IP, just like Priya's innovative app was built on exploited interns. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Someone coughed. I stopped centre stage and lowered my voice. They called me a hacker, a cheat, a dropout who didn't play by the rules. The final click brought up a single email chain. Lucas, to his father, sent the day I left Stanford. "Don't worry, Dad. Nobody backs a broke girl with a dying mother." The air left the room in a collective gasp. I leaned into the mic. "You're right. I don't play by their rules." Backstage, my phone lit up with alerts. Nix's stock soaring, Thorn Ventures halted from trading, Priya's father resigning in disgrace. But the sweetest notification came from an unlisted number. Sophia's prosthetic design just won MIT's Innovation Prize. The standing ovation lasted 7 minutes. I exited stage left before they could ask questions. Some traps only work once. The Stanford campus smelled the same. Sun-baked brick and overwatered grass, the faint tang of ambition sweating through designer backpacks. Students rushed past without glancing at the woman in the tailored black suit standing by the engineering building. They didn't recognize me, not here, not like this. The donation plaque gleamed under the California sun. The Sophia Reyes Computer Science Wing. Below it, in smaller letters, named for the girl who built her own future. Miguel's hand shook as he touched the engraving. She's going to lose it when she sees this. Inside, the atrium buzzed with undergrads. A tour group paused by the new display, Sophia's original prosthetic prototypes alongside the latest Nix-funded models. A wide-eyed freshman reached out, then yanked her hand back when the fingers twitched in response to her smartwatch signal. "Dr. Reyes' work is revolutionary," the guide chirped. "She started developing these as a teenager." I slipped away before anyone could connect the dots. The old library stacks welcomed me like a confessional. Dust motes danced in slanted sunlight, catching on the spines of books I'd once resented. My fingers trailed along the economics section, stopping at a familiar dent, the spot where Priya had accidentally knocked my research notes into a puddle sophomore year. Footsteps echoed behind me. "You're shorter in person." I turned to find a gangly sophomore clutching a well-worn copy of Nix, Disrupting the Disruptors. His hoodie read, "Code first, apologize never." "You're the reason I switched majors," he said, shoving the book at me. A post-it marked Chapter 12, How to Burn Down Silicon Valley, without getting arrested. The Sharpie trembled in my hand as I signed the title page. Ask better questions than they did. Outside, my town car idled at the curb. The driver held the door. Not for the dropout, not for the revenge story, but for the woman who'd rewritten the ending. As we pulled away, my phone buzzed. Eleanor's message glowed against the tinted windows. "They're ready for you in DC." The car accelerated past the Stanford Mum banners, past the bike racks where I'd chain-smoked through panic attacks, past the future being built by kids who still believed the world was fair. The Senate hearing would be a circus. The tech blogs would dissect my every word. Somewhere, Lucas was probably vomiting into a gold-plated toilet. But right now, the sun hit the rearview mirror just right, illuminating the tiny engraving on my keychain. Not the Nix logo, but the first prosthetic hand Sophia ever built me. A reminder, a promise. The engine purred as we merged onto the freeway. Some roads only look like dead ends until you're the one holding the map.